I'm Joy Reed, one of the founders of NASDF, and I am lucky today to be joined by Ms. Sherry Platt. Sherry is a transformational counselor, has a master's in counseling, is an interfaith spiritual director, a recruiter, a public speaker, has over 20 years of experience in her field and with counseling people through work and work transitions and discovering their purpose and their calling in their work in life. Sherry, I'm very familiar with your work and your background, which is brilliant. But recently you've been talking about something that you've called the motherhood penalty,
Right.
which I find fascinating and especially pertinent to women who are going through a divorce or facing a divorce, or even single, not even, but including single mothers, whether they were divorced or not, or have just been raising a child unmarried and alone for a while. So I wondered if you could take some time and go through what that is and how it pertains especially to our members.
Sure. First, let's define the motherhood penalty overall. So the motherhood penalty is the financial penalty women will face for having children in the job market.
Right.
Okay. And so this is a global issue. It is not just a Western U.S. issue. Women internationally are affected by having children financially and economically. So the motherhood penalty also affects, I want to say, women who choose to not have children, because there is a general assumption that they will, even if they're saying they're not. And by the way, that's an illegal question. It shouldn't be asked anyways. So there's a lot of assumptions that come up. With women who, I mean, when you said it's single and divorced, I think it's interesting because moms who choose to be single moms and not get married sometimes struggle a little bit less with this because they didn't have the opportunity to step out of the job market.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Right. So there's
more continuity.
End to that career trajectory.
Correct.
Right.
And so they don't necessarily. So I'm not saying it's better for them.
Right. No, and you're not saying they struggle less financially.
Exactly.
I know.
But
yes.
they're less likely. It affects them differently. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Because
the motherhood penalty specifically.
Yes, because they don't necessarily pull out of the workforce. Of course, they're dealing with different issues with his childcare, doing things by themselves,
barely affording the childcare with the job.
Exactly. So that is sort of an interesting. The other interesting group are same-sex marriages or partnerships, because they too have different agreements about responsibility in childhood, et cetera. And they tend to talk more about who's going to do what than in a heteronormative experience.
There's not an assumed gender role situation.
Exactly. So when women who have more children are more profoundly affected by the motherhood penalty. So the motherhood penalty is perhaps not getting promotions that everybody else gets, not getting the same compensation that other people get, taking those career breaks and losing momentum in your salary and income growth. Let's see. Those are the three biggest ones. There's also sort of a lack of respect that often comes with moms in the workplace, and there's also the physical and mental well-being of moms in the workplace who do show up every day, who do have the tech jobs I used to come from, which were 12 to 15 hours a day, and then still go home and take care of their kids, or work from home and have to figure out a way to balance that as well. Now, I gave this speech at an event the other day, and a woman who just had a C-section, she had only had it 3 months ago, was having to go back to work because, of course, she doesn't get I'm blanking completely.
Maternity leave.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's right. So she has to return, and she's still recovering from a C-section.
Yeah, because they're brutal.
Well, yes, they are. I've had it, and after 3 months, I was beginning to function normally, but not at my best, and she has to go back to a full-time job. So these are just an example of the motherhood penalties that most women will face. Women who go through divorce and weren't planning on this, or maybe divorce is sudden. I mean, oftentimes they're the most vulnerable because sometimes women stay in marriages because they've lost their financial leverage.
Yeah.
So they stay in marriages they shouldn't be anymore because they're abusive or not conducive to a healthy lifestyle. So we have that. We have women who didn't work, although I find that even women with children tend to work in some capacity, but it may not be for pay. So I'm not even talking about being a stay-at-home mom. I'm talking about
like volunteer hours?
So volunteer hours, but it can also be so if you're running the PTA fundraising events, that is
That's
not
work.
paid for, and it's, it might not be as valuable because it's PTA,
But that's still event planning, coordination,
Fundraising.
communication, fundraising.
right?
Yeah.
All of that. So there's skills within there that can be transferable. And also, a lot of times, women are actually working in family businesses while they're at home. And I had a conversation with a woman yesterday at my roommate's child's event, and because I don't have young children anymore, but I'm still involved in their
Very
lives.
grown,
And they and she said that the woman I was sitting next to said that she had been a banker. She had been a VP of banking and then took some time out to help her kids, and now she's not doing anything. And I said, really, didn't I hear that you worked for your husband's plumbing business? And she said, well, yeah. And I said, and what are you doing there? She goes, I'm doing bookkeeping. I'm making sure the plumbers get out. I said, so you're doing operations at the plumbing? Oh,
And accounting.
yeah. And accounting. Yeah. And, oh, so you are working. I am working. It's this this switch went off. And I said, of course you're working still. So there's a way in which women we see ourselves as society sees us.
Right. With the lesser value, the lesser
Exactly.
worth.
Exactly.
Right.
So when I work with women to challenge the motherhood penalty, as much as I'd like to overcome it, and I think we will at some point, right now our best bet is to challenge the motherhood penalty. And we do that by, in many capacities, never leaving the world of work. And that doesn't necessarily mean financially, but we just talked about volunteering, right? And maintaining your connections. So if you were working before, maintaining those connections through LinkedIn, through conversations, to texting occasionally, not losing your connections with the working world, and actively working to maintain new connections as well. So, I mean, if we had an hour, I would keep going about other things, other ways you can
No,
challenge.
I'm realizing we need to do this again. We need to
Yeah.
do this again for a longer stretch, because this is, one, it's a fascinating topic, and it's one that desperately needs to be talked about. And one of the, with this world the way that it is, one of the things that gives me hope to hang on to right now is the fact that the younger generations have been challenging broken paradigms and broken systems for a while now. And it has allowed us to have conversations like this. Conversations that you've actually been having for 20 years, which is challenging this system and challenging the way and bringing forth a new way and method of attacking a patriarchal, broken paradigm and system.
And I want to say to divorcing women in particular, but this also goes for any parent who has been stay-at-home, because I've worked with stay-at-home dads around this as well, because they struggle with all the same challenges, sometimes even more unique ones because they were men who chose to stay at home, and there's a stigma to that also. So is that as painful as this time is, as hard as the transition may feel, it's a good thing. And you're going to be okay. You're going to be better than okay. You're going to be thriving. You just got to give yourself some time to go through this transition, to really rediscover who you are, to start asking yourself what you want for yourself next, and work with a professional such as myself, because I have to tell you, being able to articulate what you've been doing while you've been raising children in a professional manner, and I'm talking about whether you decide to go through the entrepreneur route and start your own business, you're still going to need to articulate your skills. If you go down the route of going back to work for someone or coming in as a contractor or as a gig worker, you're still going to have to be able to articulate who you are and what you bring to the table, and that's a good thing. I think the power of true career coaching by a professional who knows what they're doing, because there's a lot of people who call themselves career coaches and they're not. And they don't know what they're doing. That is, it really should be an opportunity for you to feel career robust. That's a word I'm going to start using.
Oh, I love that.
I know. I started using it today. Career robust, spiritually empowered, and personal. It's a personal evolution experience. All those things are wrapped up in this. So it's hard. I understand. I've been there. And it'll be okay. I've been down that hole, and I know the way out.
That's the whole. I always say that It will be okay. The road to here and okay may be longer and bumpier than we want, but it will all.
It will be
Be
okay.
okay.
And there will be this moment, because I remember it well, sitting in a car. It was late at night, and the kids were with their dad. And I thought, oh my God, I did it. I set myself free.
Yeah.
Right? And that was coming out and getting divorced. So there was a lot going on. But I know many women do finally get to that point, and men get to that point when they realize they have managed to free themselves, and now their life is waiting for them.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. Thank you very much, Sherry, for
Thank
joining
you,
me
Joy,
today.
for having me. Thank you.